Painful is, it was, someone else recommended it. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And good morning, all you out there in cyberspace. We are, hello, I mean, I have to sit down. We are, today, let's take a look at what today will be. Let's see. Have we avoided Nicholas's head? Good. This is really important. What? Okay, then Nicholas, can you move slightly to your right? Is he all right? But then there's a question about this other camera, please. Yeah? Okay. So this morning, we will have, Stacia, a meditation on the relation of sacrifice to the burning ground in the sixth ray and to your life. Then Francis will make his presentation on Mars and Pluto, which seems fitting somehow. Then we will divide into three groups. And actually, I'll take the ceremonial people over in the temple area, so it's really four groups. And today there will be laser readings, as they have come to be called, between 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll all meet back in this room, because the ceremonial team will be setting up the other room, because there's so much to do there. So if you would like to have a real reading, I mean, in other words, a more complete reading, because still we're focusing on other things. Can you see from that one? Yes. Are you okay? You okay? Okay. Then I would suggest we have many astrologers roaming the territory. And if you want to select one of them, I have your chart, Tiago, it's right over here. If you want to select one of them and have a more extensive reading, then please do sign up with them, go to them, and then go to the bookstores at it, I believe, and the payment is at the bookstore, but you make the appointment with the astrologer. And then they can go more into detail in your life, but the kinds of readings we're doing today should relate a bit more to the themes that we have been exploring together. Okay. I think the thing about tape recorders is they're meant to be turned on. All right. So this is a meditation. I hope not too long a meditation, shorter than yesterday's, because we have a lot to do this morning. It's about what you are willing to sacrifice to achieve your vision or your ideal. Of course, that's where the rubber hits the road, as they say, and that's the question between theory, the difference between theory and practice. So let's simply get ourselves in a comfortable position. And quiet all of the vehicles so they don't get in the way of perception. And realize yourself as the observer of these personality fields, the observer of your physical and sensory nature, of your sentient nature, emotional, and of your lower mind. Ultimately, we become even the observer of our causal field as we identify with higher points of view. And we begin to think of ourselves at this stage as the soul in incarnation, the point of being consciousness, surrounded by the personality fields. But in a way independent of these fields. Until the fields fade out and at least imaginatively, the causal field presents itself a world of supra-personal light and loving magnetism and sacrificial power. And we, at least imaginatively, identify ourselves more with this soul field than with our customary personality. And we are related to each other, let's say imaginatively, as egoic lotuses are related to each other on the higher mental plane. We're so used to encountering each other as personalities, but what if we could visually even encounter each other as souls, as consciousness within that apparatus we call the egoic lotus. And from this position, as we meditated upon yesterday, we realize that there is a soul idealism. There is a soul aspiration towards still higher spaces. There is a soul devotion to the redemption of the hidden souls, as he calls them, within the outer forms. Aspiration, devotion, idealism, these things do not die in the soul field. So from this perspective, which contains wisdom and objectivity, we review our incarnational life, this particular incarnation. You have stepped through many opportunities for purification. Maybe you can see these. You have been successively purified. It's one of the qualities of Shambhala, purification. And you have passed through many burnings which allow you to approach a more elevated quality of life expression. So many have been the sacrifices, perhaps some of them involuntary, and others chosen. And you should be standing now more fit to go into a new field of experience beyond the door we talked about yesterday. But perhaps further sacrifice is required, a further making sacred of your life conditions. It's one thing to idealize, to be devoted, to have a vision, but what are we actually willing to sacrifice to realize or manifest that ideal? The old saying, to those who give all is given. We think of the fact that sixth ray Mars, especially in its higher meanings, can signify the willingness to sacrifice many things, even all, in the great and inevitable battle, the Kurukshetra of our lives. And we have called on Mars as we stood upon the burning ground. And we recall that sixth ray Neptune, its soul ray probably, signifies the sacrifice which becomes only natural when the Christ love and the still greater love of the being we call the great sacrifice, Sanat Kumara, is realized. The Mars sacrifices have to do with the battles between spirit and matter, soul and personality. And the Neptunian sacrifices take us still higher, into the likeness of the elder brothers and their superiors. So we know what's required. As Master Moria said, when have you ever become less through sacrifice? Why is this law, this first law of the soul, the law of sacrifice, so very fundamental, so primary? DK seems to suggest we will understand that later, the necessary sacrifice, but what do we understand now? Why is this law of sacrifice so fundamentally necessary? Think again now of the vision or ideal beyond the door, a vision or ideal which should be manifested in your life. And this is an important question. Are you called to any sacrifice which would make the realization of this vision or ideal truly possible? Only you will know. Clarity regarding the vision, the ideal, and knowing what has to be given up in order to achieve it, and what has to be, more importantly, taken on or taken over, because that is another meaning of sacrifice. That's when one takes on responsibility. And so now, a still more probing question, which only you can answer. Is there any sense that you are withholding something in the making of this sacrifice, this necessary sacrifice, if you can identify it? Because what we hold back is in a way taken from us. This is where fear enters in. So let's be specific. In light of that which is to be achieved, manifested, realized, do you find yourself withholding anything on the physical etheric plane, the realm of action and energy? Is there any withholding there? Do you find yourself withholding anything on the plane of desire, of emotion, of sentiency, in this field of motivation and feeling? Are you withholding something that would make the sacrifice possible? And what about the area of the mind? Is there a withholding in this lower mental area that prevents the expression of the sacrifice which would make the manifestation of the ideal, the vision, a reality in your life? Check your mental condition. Is something withheld? It's only by a very careful examination of the patterns within our personality vehicles that we can see what the obstacles may be to the giving, which returns everything for better service. So what do you think would be required of you if you were able to overcome these forms of withholding that you may have discovered, so that it can be realized within you? To those who give all is given. What is required to overcome the withholding? course, this has a group application. Are there certain ideals which humanity should be manifesting? Of course there are. And what sacrifices on the part of millions and even billions of human beings would be required in general so that these ideals on behalf of the entire human race could be realized? We might say that one of the great ideals, and also an idea in a purer sense, is the ideal of right human relations. What will humanity as a whole have to sacrifice in order to produce this desirable result? Can you see any necessary changes to the human psyche, to the consciousness of humanity? Any changes which would bring that consciousness into a condition, such a condition that it would be willing to make the necessary sacrifices? And this, of course, leads us back to the idea of the vision. DK calls it the quality of the hidden vision. He sometimes calls it the mystical vision. Humanity needs the vision which accords with reality in order to induce the willingness to make the necessary sacrifices. And so responsibility returns to us and people like ourselves who are carriers of the vision, light bearers. We just impress upon our minds that there is no way forward without sacrifice. So how then do you think that the will to sacrifice, which is so important to the higher functioning of the sixth ray, could become a permanent part of your life and orientation, so that you live according to the will to sacrifice and follow through on the indications of this will. How could that be brought about in your life? And I would suggest that no matter what thought you arrive at, seeing the necessity for it is key. So as we bring this meditation to a close, let us do one very practical thing. Try to conceive of at least one small sacrifice, or maybe not so small, that you would be willing to make in order to help bring about the fulfillment of a larger vision and a greater ideal, which are both yours and relate to the divine plan. At least one small, tangible sacrifice that you would be willing to make. And affirm to yourself that you will do this. This is the only way to succeed with the burning of that which retards. And so, with the sense of the necessity of these sacrifices, and in the alignment with the higher aspects of the sixth ray, which lead eventually to what DK calls self-immolation, which is a kind of powerful conclusion to the burning ground. Convinced of the utter practicality of the will to sacrifice, leading to sacrifice, we will sound the great invocation together, pausing between the verses. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. I'd like you to keep the meditative mood and just go into little groups of 2. We will take maximum of 10 minutes, 5 minutes per person, and then on to the lecture. So keep the focus and be quite quiet as you discuss. Thank you.